Hey everyone, Everett here. With Swedish metalers Katatonia set to release their 11th studio album, City Burials, on April 24th, 2020, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to provide a guide to those of you who may be interested in getting into the band but haven't done so yet. Let's face it, with 10 studio albums and the 11th on the way, it can be a little intimidating to get into Katatonia. The good news for you, however, is that there's really no bad place to start. Each album is fully formed and enjoyable in its own right, and there's really no way you can go wrong. The trick is, of course, if you want to align your tastes with what the band's put out so far. I'm going to recommend that you start with a very specific album, but before I get into that, I want to take a moment to break out the main phases of Katatonia's discography so that you can get a better picture of what it's all about when I start outlining the various paths. These elements point to very real differences between the albums, but they're not always so black and white. I like to think of Katatonia as having three main phases, although the boundaries between them are not without debate. The first phase is their Death Doom phase, and this consists of their first album, Dance of December Souls. It features interesting song structures with screamed vocals, and it truly is a metal album that I don't think any band has since replicated. Some people like to think that Brave Murder Day fits in with this phase, partly because of the scream vocals. For myself, I think Brave Murder Day, because of the music itself, fits in with the second phase, which is their stripped down gothic phase. I am labeling this second phase gothic metal just for the sake of simplicity. It's not really gothic. It's kind of slightly doomy. It's slightly shoegazy, although not really. And some people might not even consider it metal at all in favor of a label, say, depressive rock. Whatever you want to call this phase, it consists of simple beats, few progressive elements, and it is a marked difference from Dance of December Souls. To me, it lasts for 4 albums, Brave Murder Day through Last Fair Deal Gone Down. Some people would include Viva Emptiness in this, but I think that there's a marked shift between Last Fair Deal Gone Down and Viva Emptiness. So for Viva Emptiness, I'm including it in the third and final phase, which is their progressive phase. Here the band is incorporating elements of doom, progressive metal, alternative metal. They have acoustic sections, they've got sections backed by pianos and keyboards, and they even have some electronic effects for atmosphere. It could be argued that this phase of the band could even be broken down into 2 more phases, one being of alternative metal and one being true progressive metal. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to keep it combined. And at 5 albums, this is the band's longest phase, and given what I've heard so far of the 2 songs released for City Burials, I have no reason to suspect that this latest album will break from this trend. Now that we've got kind of the 1,000-foot view of the band's discography, the question remains, where do I get into Katatonia? Which album do I start with? For my money, there's one answer to this and one answer only, and that is the last album of their gothic phase, Last Fair Deal Gone Down. With that album, their 5th, you've got a highly experienced band that knows exactly what they're doing. The album has pretty much every element common to the band, thematically, lyrically, musically, and indeed, for example, there are guitar parts on this album that you will hear a decade hence. It's simple music, simple beats, simple melodies, that's not too challenging, yet at the same time it rewards repeat listenings. There's a lot in here for you to take in. And as an aside, if you're the type of person that forms any sort of seasonal association with the music you listen to, this album is perfect for the fall time. The feelings that it evokes, the sense, the atmosphere, it's something that will stay with you for the rest of your life. From this album then, I recommend 4 paths based on what you do and do not like about this album. Number 1, you like what the album's doing, but you're disappointed with the lack of metal. You want more metal. In this case, your next stop should be Brave Murder Day. It's very similar musically to Last Fair Deal Gone Down, but with the screamed metal vocals. After that, once you've exhausted Brave Murder Day, The only logical conclusion, the next step, is to go back to the original Dance of December Souls. In that album, you'll find one of the most impressive albums of the 90s and one that is highly regarded even today. Now, for path number 2. If the lack of metal didn't disturb you and you actually liked what was going on with Last Fair Deal Gone Down and you want more of the same, then your choice is to go with Discouraged Ones. This is 2 albums before Last Fair Deal, and it's very similar. From Discouraged Ones, you would then want to go to Tonight's Decision, and all 3 albums have a very similar vibe, very similar sound, so if you like what Last Fair Deal is putting down, you can't go wrong with Discouraged Ones and Tonight's Decision. Personally, I've never been a huge fan of Tonight's Decision, but one thing that will always stand out with me with that album is I remember reading a few years ago someone saying online that it actually saved their life. They were feeling suicidal, they got this album, they listened to it over and over and over, and it saved their life. So what more can you say? The fact that people relate to that album so much is definitely a good reason to check it out. Path number 3. You like what Last Fair Deal's putting down, but maybe it's a little simple for your tastes. Maybe you want something a little bit more. In which case, the next step is the next album, Viva Emptiness. Now, a lot of people think that Last Fair Deal and Viva Emptiness are the same. I disagree. I think there's actually a marked shift in style going on. You start to see the introduction of quiet, loud juxtaposition within the songs, between the verse and the chorus. You start seeing more atmosphere, and indeed, this is where the progressive elements really start to show. From Viva Emptiness, again, your next step will be the next album, The Great Cold Distance. Here you have an album with a lot of catchy songs, some of the most catchy the band has ever put out, Soil Song, My Twin, and it's something that fans have come to really appreciate and respect. The 4th and final path is if you didn't really like what was going on with Last Fair Deal Gone Down. Maybe it's too boring, maybe the production's not up to standard. If this is your reaction to that album, then you definitely want to check out 2009's Night is the New Day. In terms of the Katatonia timeline, this is their most progressive album yet, with the most atmosphere. It's a highly varied album with some significant doom riffing in the first track, and it even has some acoustic sections in the 3rd track, Idle Blood. If you like what you hear in that album, just progress up the chain. Go to Dead End Kings, go to The Fall of Hearts, and if by the time you're watching this video the last album's come out, check it out too. Now, if you've tried all 4 paths, but the band is still not striking your fancy, maybe Katatonia is not for you. The only other thing I could say at this point is, try again. You never know. I myself have been listening to Katatonia since 2001, literally over half of my life, hundreds of hours worth of listening time, and if you're someone that likes metal, likes hard music, but can't get into this band, I hate to say it, but I kind of feel sorry for you because they've been such a huge part of my life, my musical life, for close to 2 decades now. I really think that there's something in their discography that everyone would enjoy. So if you're not feeling it, put it aside, but please try again sometime because it really is worth your time. This band is golden, and I'm so glad that they're back with a new album. Alright folks, that about sums up my guide for how to get into Katatonia. If you found the video useful, if it helped you get into the band, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Regardless, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.